If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
Blah, blah, blah.
Sending out good vibes.
Blah, blah, blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
Blah, blah, blah.
Good vibes.
But I do microdose, to just align my intellect, emotional will, so that when I take action, the best version of myself can be produced at that time.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica Show. We're going to be chatting with Thomas Hatsis again a little bit later. Of course, he was on a couple hundred episodes ago. Was it a year ago? Did it end up being 2 years ago? I can't remember. We looked at it anyway. We looked it up. And he's back talking about witches and shrooms and riding brooms and all that sort of fun stuff.
Turn my gate back up.
And it is a real fun episode. Thomas is always welcome in Grimerica, and we always have a fun time. It's fun. There's a certain type of guests that seem to fit right into our casual style here, and we just have a ruckus. Thomas is one of those guys, so we had a blast. And, of course, we got the one and only Graham. I got banned from PayPal Dunlop. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, buddy. That wasn't me.
Welcome to the show. No, it wasn't you.
Welcome to the show. You're welcoming me to my own show?
Yep.
Thanks.
To our show.
Yeah, we got some big news. You want to jump right into it or what? We can say, this is our little intro segment, and the interview with Thomas is later on. But we did have a bit of a scare yesterday. We might as well just jump right into that, I guess, and get into our little housekeeping segment, and then we can go through some listener emails and synchronicities and stuff later.
Little housekeeping segment with our little emails. Should I just start? Should I read the email they sent?
Well, sure, however you want to start talking
however I want to start it.
Yeah, this is mainly your story. And
I was driving.
I'm just going to interject and stuff.
You're going to interject?
Yeah,
Inject crap?
Interrupt and ask questions.
So I was driving along in my car yesterday, in my truck, and I stopped at a red light. I'll check email, press the button, comes up. I see the subject line in the email from PayPal. And where is it here? Now I can't find the email. I've sent a lot of emails since then. Okay, so I'm driving along.
So you didn't get a notification because you turned your notifications off finally?
That's right. I don't get notifications anymore. Where the fuck did it go?
And I get bugs for not being able to find emails.
Oh, yeah, here it is. So the email comes in. The subject line is, you can no longer do business with PayPal. And bear in mind, this is 3 days after I released the episode where I'm bitching about PayPal censoring people.
Yeah.
So I got.
And I think it was just after our Jay Dyer episode, which got pretty deep into censorship and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, man, there's something going on with your mic. It's a little hot or something. There's a buzz.
It's both of ours, I think, since yours is the same.
So anyway, immediately I think it's a scam. I assume it's a scam.
You assumed it was a scam right away?
Yeah.
That was your initial thought was
thing. I have a couple things I do to check if things are scams. I click on the email a couple times to get done because sometimes they'll put fake email aliases in front of it to make it look like it's from PayPal. But if you keep following it down, it'll be some weird address.
Aren't you supposed to not click on the email when you think it's a scam?
No, you're not supposed to log in and fucking give them your password and stuff.
Well, yeah.
Because it comes with a login to PayPal button. Is it obvious for you? Haven't you been burned a couple of times?
No.
No? You never got fished?
No.
Huh.
I catch them.
Do you?
Yeah.
You send them to me. So I get this. I'll read it. It says, you can no longer do business with PayPal. After a review, we've decided to permanently limit your account as we found potential risk associated with it. You will not be able to conduct any further business using PayPal. If you have money in your PayPal balance, we'll hold it for up to 180 days. After that period, we'll email you with information on how to access your funds. We regret any inconvenience this may cause.
So the 6 months they say they want to hold your money for?
Yeah. So
So it's not even just that they would stop stuff from going in your account. They're actually freezing the money that you have in there.
You can't touch the money you got. So first thing I think is it's got to be a scam.
Yeah.
But it's got like this reference ID and everything in the title. It looks pretty legit. I'm like, it must be a scam. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go and try and buy something with my PayPal account. So I go and I try and buy something with the PayPal. It pops up. Your PayPal account has been, declined.
Declined, okay.
I'm like, well, that's weird. Shouldn't be declined. Go check the app. Sure enough, there's money in there. Okay, that's test 1. Test 2, I call a couple friends of the show, ask them to go to the website and try and subscribe through PayPal. They go on, try and subscribe. They get a message that they can't subscribe because it's a restricted PayPal account. Of course, I have screenshots of all this stuff. And then, so then I actually went into, once I figured out that our PayPal account was actually restricted, I phoned PayPal, sat on hold for like half an hour, talked to some lady I could barely understand, and she couldn't tell me.
Why couldn't you understand her?
She was just really hard to understand. Thick accent.
Fuzzy on the phone?
Fuzzy and accent.
Yeah.
It's like you guys are a $1 billion company and you're fucking got the worst fucking phones on the planet. And everyone else, you can hear everyone else talking in the back.
Oh, no.
It's
Really?
like a big call center, right?
Yeah.
So I talked to her and she can't tell me anything, just that. But she confirms that, yeah, your account's fucking frozen.
Yeah.
I can't help you.
I thought they hung up on you.
Well, then she's like, I'm like, well, what do you mean you can't help me? I was like, I need to know what's going on here. I was like, this is kind of a big deal for me. And she's like, okay, well, let me put you on hold and I'll escalate it to the next. I'll put you on hold. We'll be back in just a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, go on hold. 20 minutes later, I'm still on hold. And like this has got to the point where I've parked my truck. I'm past the point of driving someplace. I've parked my truck and now I'm like walking around on hold.
Yeah, of course.
And waiting and stopping before I can go to where I'm supposed to be because I'm thinking they're going to come on any minute.
Yeah.
I was like, click, nothing. Shuts off. Yeah, they just hung up on me. Like, okay, this is not a good sign. So I'm like, okay, well now I know PayPal has confirmed that my PayPal account is suspended. Our PayPal account is suspended. Well, it's your podcast. That'd be my PayPal. So now I've confirmed that it's a legit email and our PayPal's, you know, I've tried to spend money, I can't do it. I've tried to get money, I can't do it. And I've talked to PayPal on the phone and they've told me that our account's suspended. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to click the button on the email now. And so then it logs us into my PayPal account where it says, you need to click here you need to update a setting so that we can fix your account. I'm like, oh, great. It's something fucking, it's some silly fucking
Like a glitch.
Press the thing. Boom. Your account's banned. You can no longer do business with PayPal. Your account's permanently limited. So it's basically the exact same message that's in the email. So now I'm starting to worry because, you know, not right now, 90% of our income is through PayPal.
Yeah. And all our bills come out of PayPal.
And
like
more
it's basically
all of our bills come out of
all
PayPal.
our monthly expenses, everything just flows through PayPal basically.
Yeah, except for a few things that aren't. But we don't really have another system in place other than like paying for it ourselves. So then I'm like, okay, I call PayPal back. By the way, if you're listening, Super Chat still works, motherfuckers. So I call PayPal back, talk to another guy, and I explain the situation to him. And he's like, this guy seems he's an Irish guy. He seems a little more like he cares.
More switched on.
He seems like he's a little more switched on. He cares a little more. And I'm like, you know, it's a big deal for me. Like, I need to know if I'm switching or what I'm doing here. I need to know what's going on fast, like now, today.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. And he's like, yeah, all I can see here is that your account's been limited. He's like, I don't know if it's from a payment you made or he's like, something has happened here. And your account's limited. Nothing I can do about it. I'm like, okay. And he's like, well, all I can do is maybe I can go to my higher ups. So he's like, I'll tell you what. He puts me on hold for a while. And then he comes back on. He's like, okay, I'll tell you what. He's like, what's your phone number? So I give him my phone number. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna call you back within an hour. Or my supervisor, someone's gonna call you back within an hour. So an hour goes by, nothing. 2 hours, nothing.
Really?
Yeah. And so then I was waiting for a meeting. I was there early for a meeting on site. So I'm like, okay. So I go on Twitter and I just like tweet PayPal. And I'm like, really, bro? And they DM me. And they're like, what's up? And I'm like, you guys, I'll pull up the Twitter account here. So I trolled PayPal into a response. And
in the meantime, I think we were connected with our community a little bit, asking for other things, and
people.
you were actually connecting with other podcasters too, and we were finding out about other alternatives, besides
seeing
PayPal.
if anyone else. Well, the first thing I wanted to see if it was something that was switching around. So PayPal support DMs me. I DM the screenshot of the email, and I say, what the fuck? I sat on hold for 20 minutes, and you hung up. And he says, hi, Grimerica. Thanks for contacting us on Twitter for your issue, and I'm glad to assist you. I apologize.
That sounds like a bot.
I apologize for the long hold. We have a huge call volume this time, and we were not able to attend you. Please provide me with your PayPal email address so I can assist you better. So I give him that. I'm like, you guys Alex Jones me, didn't you? And he's like, thanks for the information. I will escalate you to a specialist, and you will receive a response from the next available representative. Thank you for your patience.
Was that bots?
I think it's bots, yeah.
Oh, it's just gross.
So then I get an email, and the email says your PayPal account access has been restored. It was about 10 minutes after the.
I thought you had to talk to like 4 people, or it's still going on?
It's still going on.
Okay.
So then I get the thing 10 minutes after the Twitter exchange. I get the thing that says your PayPal account access has been restored. Hello, Grimerica. Our review is complete, and we have restored your account. But if you remember, the text in the first email says after a review.
No, I know. It's just
so it's not like they've started a review and then it's finished, and it's a standard thing. This says they reviewed and says that we're no good and we're banned. Then they email, and I part of me thinks it's because we have 50,000 fucking Twitter followers and they don't want to start a problem. Like, I don't know, if we have 100 followers and I start tweeting with them, or is it just a coincidence? I don't know. Anyway, we appreciate your patience and thank you for your help in making PayPal the safest and most trusted online payment solution. So anyway, I start calling PayPal again because I need to know what happened.
Well, yeah, you'd like to know if this is going to happen
so
again.
I talked to another guy. I sit on hold again for another half an hour last night.
No way, really?
On my way home from work. And then I start talking to the guy, and he's like, well, you're back on, so you should be happy. I think you're going to be just fine here. And, he's throwing all these, like, could be this, could be that. Probably, it was probably a mistake, or maybe it has something to do. First, it had something to do with the payment we received. We haven't got any big payments. I mean, the biggest payment we've got in the last week is $20. So, and then it was just an error. And then, you're going to be okay. And then we hang up the phone. That was when I texted you and I was like, apparently it's an error or it's something to do with a payment. So it's still not sitting well with me because I've talked to 3 or 4 people at this point and no one can tell me
what happened.
What happened. So today I get a tweet from PayPal again. Or a direct message on Twitter. I'm happy to hear the limitation has been resolved. It sounds like the limitation was placed in error. You shouldn't have any issues moving forward. I said, can I get a confirmation that it was an error? That isn't something we'd send to you. The limitation would simply be removed from the account.
Yeah, they just can't tell you anything. So
End of transmission.
When did it come in that they found out that we weren't selling goods or something like that?
That was the same guy that told me it was an error and it had something to do with the payment we received. Then was like, well, what do you sell? And I was like, we don't sell anything. And he's like, well, what are people sending you money? What are people subscribed to you for?
Why do they care? Why does that matter?
And I was like, well, we have a fucking podcast, man. And he's like, oh, and then he's like, I'm going to put a note on your account. And what am I making a fucking payment arrangement for my cable bill here? Honestly, that's what it seemed like. I don't know. The whole thing really seemed, it's either PayPal is extremely fucking inept or they didn't want a problem, because I mean some of our Twitter followers are pretty loyal and they immediately started tweeting PayPal and bitching and complaining. It's still happening now. I mean, is social pressure, is that what it was? Was it a coincidence? Or is it just a glitch?
Or did we reach some sort of level or something? Or were they really just trying to like, was it a warning shot?
If I don't make
why
5
would they even
phone
do
calls
that? Like, without
and keep
explaining?
harassing them, do we just turn back on, or did it take that?
Like, as any kind of, sorry, what was that? What if, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. But any company that you're doing business with, why would they just do that without even an explanation or anything? Like, you'd think they'd give you a heads up for one thing, but after they do it, you think they would say, this is exactly why. What if we had contacted the cabin money in there?
Yeah.
And it was frozen. That would fuck up our whole trip in May, the Randall Carlson thing, like all that would have been fucked.
Yeah, that's just it.
Unless of course we got out of it, but some people probably don't get out of it.
Oh, so this is the next thing. So while this is all going on, I'm like Googling PayPal froze my account. And it's just fucking thread after thread after thread of horror stories.
That's just disgusting.
Of people like, I just took in $70,000 in pre-sales and PayPal just froze it. I can't fucking produce the things I need to sell my customers.
That's crazy.
People that are actually selling items.
Yeah.
And a lot of the resolve is that you can convince PayPal to refund the people their money. And that's it. You don't get your money again. So, I mean, the whole thing has been a huge wake-up call for it.
Yeah, we talked about it before. Like, what are we going to do if that ever happens? And we're trying to, plan something, a backup plan, have something else on the go.
Yeah, it's scary because when it happens, we're just in limbo because we don't have access. So it's not like we can go get legal representation and try and get our money. It's not like we can do anything because any funds that we have are frozen, including our hosting bills and stuff like that start to bounce because PayPal won't pay them. And we end up in this thing where we need to scramble, and we're not sure what we're going to do. All we know now is that now that this has happened, it's kind of been a real fire drill on how unprepared we are to be shut off by PayPal.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's in a way, it's a good thing. Like, in a way, it's another one of these blessing in disguises, I think, because it's going to force us to do something about it and to come up with a decent alternative. So, I mean, guys like Greg Carwood at the Higher Side Chats, they have a different thing they use. What's it called again? Stripe.
Oh, by the way, speaking of Greg Carwood, huge shout out to Greg Carwood, who, I know a few people said he mentioned it in his joint session last night, and I know he recorded an outro for his show that he released yesterday, the day it happened.
Yeah.
He released an episode, and he had a nice little...
nice little shout out.
Nice little shout out at the end about what happened and showing some support and huge things there. Head over to the Higher Side Chats, guys, of course, if you haven't already, and sub up there and support Greg over there. And yeah, so anyway, what we've come up with is that we're going to keep the PayPal open until the end of November. We're not going to close the PayPal, but we're not, at the end of November, we're going to shut down the option to subscribe for a monthly support option via PayPal. If you already have a monthly support option, it'll keep working just fine. But we're going to shut that PayPal down for a little while anyway. And we might even bring the PayPal button back if we don't have any trouble for a while. But what we're going to do is we're going to shut that PayPal down for now.
No.
Just the button. So you can't monthly subscribe through PayPal for a while. We're going to put the Stripe up there. We're going to put the Patreon up there, and we're going to focus on all our new subscribers for the next little while using those.
Using Stripe.
Stripe.
Basically, for the monthly subscription, you can only use one or the other. We can't have both on our site. We can only have
there's a
either
restriction
PayPal
that you
or
can't
Stripe.
have. You can't have PayPal and Stripe. It's
You can still do one-time donations via PayPal, but you can't do both.
The PayPal.me/Grimerica address will still work for one-time donations. At this time, anyway, and I mean they might shut us off at one time, but at this time right now, if you go to paypal.me/Grimerica, you can do one-time donation.
Yeah.
And until November 30th, you can sign up for a monthly through PayPal still. We decided we'd run it to the end of the month because there is still a ton of people that only use PayPal.
Yeah.
And we don't have enough support to tell those people to fuck off. So right now, we're going to give you guys to the end of the month. If PayPal is the only way you're willing to support the show, you need to go sign up for a monthly before the end of November. Because as of December 1st, it's going to be Stripe and Patreon are the only monthly options to support because I was able to switch the Patreon payout to a direct deposit instead of into the PayPal. So that makes Patreon somewhat self-standing, and it makes Stripe self-standing. And the idea here is that eventually we're hoping we can drum up enough support on all three platforms to sort of have an equal footing, so that we can, and if you know of a couple other platforms, I mean, we're not big on cryptos here just because they're too hard to get people to send you. We have the crypto option, but if you know of any other like credit card processors and things like that are handy and reputable that we should look at as well, send us an email, let us know, because I think we've reached the point that it's abundantly clear that if we don't start preparing now, we might end up fucked. So we need to get to the point where we have 4 or 5 different options to get paid, and all of them need to be in use so that if one of them shuts off at any given time, we still have we don't shut off. Yeah,
that was a huge wake up call. I mean, what if you weren't so dogged in your pursuit of what happened? I mean, if we were a little bit smaller, I mean, we might not have even been able to get it up and running again. I'm quite surprised that it actually got back so quick. It could have been it could have been the Twitter thing, actually. Now that you think about it, could have been that pressure. But I mean, it doesn't even matter why it happened. It's gross and disgusting that it even happened.
Yes.
And with a big company like that they can just have that ability to just flick a switch and shut you off completely, regardless of whether you did something wrong or not, which obviously we don't think we did.
No, I don't.
But you never know, because we've had these precedences with Alex Jones and the other people where PayPal has shut them down. So
that's right. So I mean, the other thing is we don't want to trigger a mass. I mean, if you don't want to be on PayPal, we understand. We'll have the new option at the beginning of next month, and if you want to switch to Stripe, we understand. We'll support that. But, I mean, if you're on PayPal, you don't feel like you have to switch because, like we say, we want to try and switch it to an equal footing. So that means if everyone leaves PayPal and goes to Stripe and Stripe shuts us the fuck off, we're just as fucked.
I don't think that'll happen, but...
I don't think so either, but for now, we want to try and keep things even for the next little while until we get to the point where we'll see where the political winds shift or where the public mood shifts. But right now, it's a pretty sketchy time with boycotts and fucking social pressure and
we just had Jay Dyer on, and his site was shut down. He had to redo his whole site, and then this happens right after we had him on. I mean, and he's obviously not talking about popular topics. I mean, he's talking about deep state book reviews and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah, that's right.
So
anyway, that's where we're at.
So I got a question.
We've been resolved. It seems to be okay, but we're going to do Stripe. So hopefully over the next couple months we can hammer into the Stripe and get that going. Patreon's still an option as well. So, this is why we need to have our own servers, and this is why we need to be self-sufficient, because right now it's the payment processors.
Yeah.
Next is then it's YouTube sometimes, and sometimes
Well, and it could be iTunes one day.
It might be YouTube, and it might be Libsyn, and it might be fucking iTunes. So we need to get standing on our own 2 feet here, as quickly as possible.
So we put out a Black Budget episode the other day in our other feed, and then how does that work now with this new
still the
system
same.
And stuff? So still the same. So any donation,
we haven't migrated away from what's it called yet,
and it's still value for value. Any donation we get. Gives access to the Black Budget feed as well, right? We got quite a few episodes in there. We're going to be doing more.
We're going to be upping that Black Budget to almost a show a week for the foreseeable future.
Well, I don't know about that. A show every 2 weeks, maybe.
At least that. Yeah. We owe you guys some content in that Black Budget. We realize that. We're going to spend some time making up for you. I know you guys seem to have enjoyed the last style, and we've got a ton of content like that we've been kind of sitting on the fence on, and now it seems like it's been a hit, so we'll roll that out. It's been good.
The next big thing is Contact at the Cabin. Randall Carlson's going to be visiting with us in May in Colorado, May long weekend, and the weekend before, or I guess for us Canadians it's May long weekend. So there's a 10-day period there where there's Randall doing tours and stuff and talks and in a huge cabin. We want to talk about that a little bit as well, because that's just it's just happening. There's still some tickets left to that.
Yeah, you got to email over at CAC 2019 at hdtravel.me.
Say that again. CAC
2019 at hdtravel.me. It's also the actual flyer I was able to embed into the show notes. So it'll be in the show notes on the website for this week. If you go to Grimerica.ca/EP316, it'll be in the show notes. The little flyer there has a thing. I think we're about 20% sold out already, so it's going pretty quick. The last weekend with the extra day on it is going extremely quick. So if you are looking at getting that 4-day weekend for the same price as the 3-day weekend, I think we're pretty well down to just camp spots left. So you got to get on that like right away if you want to get in there. The midweek one and the first weekend are still pretty open. So there's plenty of time left to get into those ones. Of course, if you're a supporter of the show, you can buy it now. If you're not a supporter of the show, you got to wait till December 10th. So yeah, May 17th to 20th, still tickets available. 20th to 23rd, still tickets available. 23rd to 27th, I believe we're down to camping only.
And it's really not much. It's only enough to get Randall and them there, cover our expenses for the cabin and food and stuff like that. So it's pretty reasonable price.
Yeah, the cabin's on 122 private acres bordering a national park. It's got a private lake and like 12 bedrooms and a game room. So it's quite a cabin. 10,000 square foot cabin in the woods.
Nice.
That's right.
That sounds scary, but
it does. Graham's going to do some seasetting. It'll be perfectly creepy. Anyhow, what else you got?
I don't know. I got some feedback, some synchronicities. Actually, I do have one that I would like to do for this episode with Thomas Hatsis. We talk about magic a lot, and we talk about psychedelics and microdosing and magic along with microdosing. It's pretty interesting.
Magical microdosing?
Yeah. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So I do have an email about some stuff like this. I want to try and find it here.
And now another edition of the Grimerican Goodies by the people, for the people.
Actually, I like this little thing you've created on the website with Jordan. Big shout out to Jordan. Your personal synchronicity rating. So,
you like that? Yeah.
So people write in their synchros, and then you can rate your own synchro. And this is an 8.
Excellent.
I should say that right off the bat.
We could go through the forums one time too and read some of the content that's building up in there.
Yeah, for sure. And even in the chats too, there's a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of rooms in the chats where you can pop stuff in as well. So, hi guys, I was listening to your chat with Joe Roop, and the timing for this chat was on point. I've always been interested in magic and made a deal with myself that once I finished my studies, that's September this year, and had a clean deck, so to speak, I would actively reach out and start putting into practice what I have longed to do for some time now. As I had been quite busy, I was playing catch up with your chats, and I listened to the chat with Joe in early September, and it resonated with me to the point that I decided to Google and see if there were any magical temples in Brisbane. Nothing came up. About a week later, I decided to do a tarot reading for myself. I'm not the best with cards, but still the reading was uncannily accurate for my circumstances with the Ace of Wands featuring prominently in the spread. The meaning of the card is in the enthusiastic pursuit and inspiration to go after something, which I took as my desire to seek out magical school. Once again, with new inspiration, I got on the internet and nothing jumped out. There just didn't seem to be anywhere close by, and I was starting to think that maybe I would have to look into an online course. As the cards had been pretty positive the day before, I decided to give myself another reading, just the 3-card spread this time. You guessed it. There was the Ace of Wands again. And just to drive the message home and make sure I really got it, after I shuffled the deck and was putting them back into the box, a card fell onto the floor, face down. When I picked it up and turned it over, it was, of course, the Ace of Wands. I figured the universe was sending me a pretty clear message to not give up until I found out what I was looking for. I jumped on the internet for a 3rd time, and I just couldn't believe it. I immediately found the website of a temple, which ended up only being located 15 minutes from where I live. I contacted the order and have just recently undergone my initiation. They have very few people contact them, as they are quite a closed group, and they were very, very interested in how I found them. I told them about my persistent Ace of Wands urging me on. They said that is usually how people come to contact them, through some weird synchro. And here's the really trippy thing. The illustration on their website is none other than the Ace of Wands. Fuck, I just got the shivers.
Shivers. Ooh. Huh.
Wow.
7.7.
That's it?
Yeah.
I was hoping you'd beat their own personal synchro, but that was pretty good.
That's never going to happen. I got to say, I highly respect their scoring of themselves.
Yeah.
That's very rare when someone scores themselves that accurately. They're all 10s.
Yeah,
They're all 10s.
I noticed a bunch of 10s in there. So, by the way, I emailed Graham like months ago with a daytime photo of some weird lights in the sky. Just wondering if you got the email. No, I didn't. P.S. The profound UFO quote isn't very profound anymore. Sorry, Graham.
Ouch.
But I agree with Darren and Brody. Love your work, and I'll keep supporting you guys every month. All the best, Camille. So thanks a lot for that. That was awesome.
First,
Bingo bango.
that was my first shout out in an email.
Was it? Yeah, little Brody got a shout out.
A new milestone.
Holy shit. That fucking flyer I put in the show notes with the wrong fucking email address has been downloaded 1,000 times.
No way.
Yeah.
What? So what's the right email again? CAC2019 at...
hdtravel.me.
Okay.
Fuck, I should delete that.
Yeah, you should probably delete it.
I'm not going to delete it right now.
Well, like speaking of the UFO quote, I think you want to jingle me up there?
The non-profound UFO quote of the week.
Darren and Graham are going deep. It's a profound UFO quote of the week. Words to ponder and critique. It's a profound UFO quote of the week.
I concentrate on the science. I'm not interested in the UFOs seen by the police and military witnesses. I'm interested in the near misses that pilots report, where their aircraft nearly collide with these things. I'm interested in the visual sightings backed up by radar. I'm interested in the military bases that are overflown by these things. I'm interested in the cases where you have radiation readings on the ground. These are no lights in the sky. These are not misidentifications of fantasy-prone individuals. This is a cutting-edge technology being reported by reliable, trained observers, and it is something that goes beyond what we can do. That, to me, suggests that if it's not ours, it belongs to someone else. If that technology is better than ours, then the extraterrestrial hypothesis seems to me to be the best explanation. That was Nick Pope, head of the UFO desk at the Air Secretariat, 2-A, British Ministry of Defense from 91 to 94.
Nick and Popin. Of course, Nick Pope has been on the show.
Going back a couple years now.
I can tell you what number. No, I can't. It was before we numbered them.
Do you want me to do another
June
quick one?
28th, 2014, Grimericans.ca/Rendlesham.
Was that before we were numbering the episodes?
Yeah.
Wow.
June 28th, 2014, so we would only been like 13 months old.
Oh, that's crazy. I felt like we were way older when we had Nick on.
Yeah. At that time, we were only getting like a couple hundred downloads a show.
No.
Maybe 400, I think.
No.
We stayed at 400 for a long time.
Do you think? Yeah.
I don't think.
You know?
I know.
You were paying attention back then?
Yeah. In the beginning, I paid attention the most. Now I don't pay attention.
How about another one quickly?
Another non-profound UFO quote?
Yeah.
Sure.
I've been asked about UFOs, and I've said publicly I thought they were somebody else, some other civilization. That's Commander Eugene Cernan, commander of the Apollo 17 mission. Quote from 1973 article in the Los Angeles Times.
Interesting.
Very.
Okay. Here's my quote. The amount of violations of human rights in a country is always an inverse function of the amount of complaints about human rights violations heard from there. The greater the number of complaints being aired, the better protected are human rights in that country.
Wow.
That was Daniel Patrick Moynihan.
You believe that?
Moynihan? I think so. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a fucking second. The better protect, because I hear a lot of shit about Saudi Arabia, and I don't think they have a great human rights record. Just saying. So here's the one from Zbigniew. Who's Zbigniew
You're not going to
Brzezinski?
do Brzezinski quotes, are you? Well, that's...
Zbigniew? History is much more the product of chaos than conspiracy. I don't know. I was listening to Corbett's new thing on World War One. World War One conspiracy. I'm loving it. I think Corbett's actually doing a swap cast with the Conspiracy Farm.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Anyhow,
I got an interesting one if you want to go into that type of thing. I just lost it, though, right now.
that's okay.
I got a quote from Rockefeller in 1991, that leaked speech.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
You want to hear that guy? Okay, hang on.
91 closed-door meeting of fellow internationalists. Billionaire and former
Brody, I
CFR
like this
chairman
one.
David Rockefeller praised his media allies, but his confidence that his words would not leave the room was later broken.
We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity. But the world is now more sophisticated and prepared to march toward a world government.
That these men aim to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole.
Here's one from Huxley.
How's that, eh?
Here's Huxley.
We thank you for being quiet about our global takeover. I mean, for fuck's sakes, people.
Here's Huxley in 62. There will be, in the next generation or so, a pharmacological method of making people love their servitude. People love their servitude in producing dictatorship without tears, so to speak. Producing a kind of painless concentration camp for entire societies, so that people will in fact have their liberties taken away from them, but will rather enjoy it because they will be distracted from any desire to rebel by propaganda or brainwashing enhanced by pharmacological methods. And this seems to be the final revolution.
And enjoy this chat about psychedelics and microdosing. And becoming an unaware slave of the New World Order.
Seriously?
That was good.
Thanks. You like the accent?
I like the Huxley accent.
There you go.
Yeah.
I can't remember if that's his real accent.
Are you trying to do that? Eh, see? That kind of accent?
No, it's like a half German one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There will be in the next row. Anyway, guys, we need support more than ever. We really do. If you've been on the fence, it's time to get off the fence. Support the show. If you don't want to do it through PayPal, wait a week. Sign up for the Stripe.
Yeah.
But, let's roll into...
Well, a week and a bit. It'll be December 1st. You can do the Stripe.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can't double the support rate by fucking Christmas and start building the defenses against these censoring bastards.
Yeah. And we're still trying to get to 1% too. So
We're still trying to get to 1%.
yeah, we'll get there soon.
Look, I seen a couple people quit PayPal today, but I didn't see them sign up for Patreon.
Oh, did you? A couple of our people quit PayPal?
I think so.
Really?
Could be a coincidence.
Well, that's the other problem we used to have with PayPal is all of a sudden people would say, well, PayPal told me that...
You guys don't want my money.
yeah. I mean, how can a company just operate with glitches like that?
Who knows?
It's time to fucking shift. Let's get off that.
Yeah. Anyway,
off the PayPal
Grimerica.ca/support, patreon.com/Grimerica. Stripe's coming soon. Sign up for one of those today. Sign up for the other one next week.
Yeah, and we'll have some other options worked out in the near future.
We'll figure
as well,
something out. Yeah, we'll be on Pornhub if you can't find us anyplace else.
That's a good idea.
They'll take us.
Brody knows he's on there already.
Brody knows.
All right, guys.
Little Brody knows.
Enjoy the chat. The one and only Thomas Hatsis.
All right, we kind of got a little Halloweeny episode here. We've got Thomas Hatsis back on. He's a lecturer, historian of witchcraft and magic and psychedelics and medieval pharmacopoeia. Last couple books that he released, Microdosing Magic is a psychedelic spellbook, and Psychedelic Mystery Traditions, Spirits, Plants, Magical Practices, Ecstatic States. It's really, really good to have you on. Looking forward to this one, Thomas.
Good. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, kind of applicable too for Halloween. You know, we like to talk about some witchy things, and man, we could go in all sorts of directions with this. I mean, I don't know, Darren, where do you want to start with this? Because I mean, we can get into to microdosing, the history of psychedelics that nobody really knows about, and combine that with magic.
Let's start. You know, I like some psychedelics. We can get into the witches later and the brooms and all that. I've actually corroborated your story with another witch expert, so I'm excited to talk about that. But cool. The secret history of psychedelics, I mean, how can I say no? I'm a psychedelic enthusiast. So, yeah, let's start there.
Excellent.
What kind of psychedelics are we talking about? Probably psilocybin, I'm assuming?
With regards to what?
Well, I mean, we could be talking about, if you're talking about the history or the modern stuff, I mean, I heard a chat with you and somebody who's developing poly and wally, like different types of new sort of contemporary ones. But then I've also heard you talk about, you know, you've kind of relabeled and recategorized some like entheogens and entheogens and stuff like that. I mean, we could go all over the place. I mean, maybe we should start in the past and then move forward to the future, and we can we can kind of hit magic on the way through, and magic and witchery on the way through.
We can swerve to hit magic on the way through.
Can I ask a quick question, though?
Yeah.
Did you just say Wally and Polly?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we know the same fellow.
No. I just heard you talk. I watched your video with him. It was pretty interesting.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
And I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. So, just so we're clear.
There are new drugs I'm working on getting you, Darren, to test.
Really?
Poly and Wally.
They sound pretty synthetic.
They're probably more synthetic than the psilocybin, right, Thomas?
Oh, well, I mean, psilocybin isn't synthetic.
Exactly.
So.
That's right. Like I'm.
So it's not hard not to be.
In my older days,
well
in my older days, I'm a firm. If it don't grow, it don't go. Proponent.
Well, the guy he was talking to on the video was really saying that there is a difference. You can feel the difference between psilocybin or the grown. Like there's something about the spirit of the plant or the toad that makes it feel different than just one developed in the lab, right?
I haven't tried toad.
I tried synthetic toad, the 5-MeO DMT. That's pretty good.
Oh, is that synthetic toad? I've actually got some allegedly, Grimericans podcast character Darren has some DMTs been waiting to try for a while, but I don't know why, I just haven't done it, but I feel like it's I said it was going to happen this summer, but maybe it'll be this winter, maybe on like the solstice or something.
Sure. Was it is it NN or is it 5-MeO?
I think it's NN.
Okay, cool. Nice.
Is the 5-MeO better? Is that the better stuff?
Well,
or different,
I don't know
not
that
better,
one
but
is
different.
Necessarily better than the other. They're kind of different. At least for me, they were pretty different. And for most people that I've spoken to about it, they seem to be pretty, different.
What can I expect, allegedly?
So, okay, the way I could put it like this. So with 5-MeO, I got to experience the Big Bang as a particle of light before anything existed. So pretty much all of space and time, I was actually able to wrap that around my head. Whereas with the NN, that was more just like Gaia showing me how the building blocks of the universe was put together. And I'm not very good at engineering or math, so I don't recall most of it. But so I would say that that's mostly the difference. Like with the NN, there was stuff to work with, like planets and galaxies. And with the 5-MeO, it was just light, really. Not to sound too cliche, but it was just love and light.
That's a tough choice.
You got to do both.
Yeah.
P.O. Box. You know, I like math, and I think I would. It almost sounds like the NNN would be like almost more of. It'd be a good starter, maybe. You know, like a little more based in reality. Would you put it that way, or?
I guess it's up for each person to decide for themselves. Like I did it the other way. I did 5-MeO first, and then I did the NN. So
interesting.
I mean, I was. Oh, sorry, my kitty cat's here.
That's okay. Graham loves cats.
So yeah, it was. Yeah, for some people, maybe it would be better to go with the NN first because you know it is a little bit closer to reality, as unreal as it is. Sorry, she's walking across. Whereas with the 5-MeO, it's just, you know, it's kind of like that ultimate reality experience.
Was the universe warm?
I don't recall things like warm or cold applying.
Interesting. What about in the NNN? Was there any sort of temperate feel there, or was it more like a physical place? You explore the inner space that is yourself, like that slice of the universe that is you, that inner space. At least for me, that's what I went through, but I haven't done it as many times as many other people have. I've only done it once. Looking forward to doing it again. But some people would definitely disagree and, you know, say they probably had much deeper experiences than the kind I've had. I mean, that's the thing with these kind of higher level spirit plants. They kind of do with you what they will. So, you know, for each person, they're all going to need something different. It's kind of like when you go to a restaurant and everybody orders something different on the menu. Mm. Interesting. Did either of them have any noticeable effect on your life? Like afterwards? Like, I mean, I had the first mushroom experience I had on the show, I would say was one of the ones that had more of a profound impact on my overall outlook on life, but it was probably one of 3 or 4 sort of psychedelic experience that shaped, you know, your non-psych. I don't know how to quite phrase that, but I think you know what I'm getting at.
I know what you're getting at. So I would say definitely with the 5-MeO DMT, that more than anything else lessened my fear of death. I feel like I've seen it at this point. So it doesn't seem all that scary anymore. It just seems like this kind of soup of light that you just kind of go back to, and it's just everything is in it and it's all there, and it's just an odd kind of sensation. But the oddest part was coming back from it and feeling like, wow, I've been there before. That was the crazy part. Well, the whole thing was nuts. Yeah. But yeah, so that was pretty big. Like, I mean, every now and then, of course, I have my fears, but you know, most days I don't really fear death at all. I mean, I don't want to die young, but I don't feel actually dying anymore.
So maybe we could start with a spot that I don't want to miss this part. When I was listening to your talks, something really hit me, because we've got this evidence, most of it's anecdotal, between people healing themselves through the astral realm, whether it's like out-of-body experiences or lucid dreaming. But there's people, you know, people can go in and heal themselves. And I heard you talking about in the ancient times where people were using psychedelics to get to that realm to heal. Like, it wasn't about these things being a pain reliever as much as it being a gateway or a way to that realm to heal. Maybe we could sort of start there and work our way back.
Sure. So, yeah, you're referring to what was going on in the temples of Isis in ancient Egypt. One of the oldest medical texts we have extant, actually, I think the oldest one, is called the Ebers Papyrus. And in there, the author claims to have received all of these different potions and mixtures from the goddess Isis. And one of them is an opium and coriander potion. And yeah, what you're saying is correct. People would go to these temples and drink these potions, not necessarily for the euphoric effects of the opium, although those effects were recognized and I'm sure they were appreciated, but that wasn't necessarily why you did it. You did it because it would put you into a deep sleep where you would enter the spirit realm to meet Isis. And while there, she would heal you in your dreams or tell you how to heal yourself once awake. Now, this kind of experience I call a somnotheogenic experience, and it means generating divinity in your dreams. Over in Italy, we see evidence of it too. At the bottom of Lake Bracciato, there's a city called La Marmota. We get the word marmot from marmota. And the diver excavators found what seems to be this religious room in dedication to a great mother. They also found a whole bunch of opium seed products there as well. And, perhaps this is a place where these somnotheo medicinal operations took place the way they were doing it at the temples of Isis and later the temples of Asclepius as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. So how far do you think that stopped happening in, let's say, a couple thousand years ago, or?
Well, so it's weird because in the last time I was on, we talked about the witch's ointment, and it seems that those wise women were also having that kind of experience and meeting with fertility goddesses during the medieval times, the early modern period, the Renaissance period as well. And I mean, I'm sure I know some people that still engage in that kind of spirituality today. So I think that it's been continuous through history.
Yeah, with different substances.
Sure. Yeah, depending on what's available to people, I think. I mean, there's a general belief, some general kind of spiritual belief, and then you tailor, whatever potential, theogens or entheogens or psychedelics or whatever you want to call it, to, your area or what makes the most sense to you. And you work forward from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's interesting because I never really put together that entering that realm, that might be a way to
I should see if I can fix my shoulder the next time I eat mushrooms.
Well, there you go. You should. Yeah. I mean, I think everything can be.
You're gonna have to come and coach me.
Well, that's kind of what I was going to ask.
Never going to do it again, but I'm going to drag you along.
Is if people need to be there with people, like if people are doing this healing with a wise woman or a shaman or even going back to ISIS, is somebody there to guide them to do that, or are you on your own, or do they just sort of? I wonder if they just.
Well, Stamets did it on his own. Remember, he climbed that fucking tree. Paul Stamets ate all them mushrooms and cured his stutter.
Yes, that's right. That's right. During the thunderstorm.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So true. Yeah. So, in some cases, it kind of depends from one kind of mystery tradition to the next in the ancient world, and whether you had a guide or not. Like at the rites of Eleusis, you absolutely had a guide to take you through the experience, and others like the rites of Trophanos, that the Greek writer Pausanias writes about. It seems as if you were in the company of priestesses and priests, and you would make the right sacrifices and adjurations. But after you would drink the theogenic brew, that's when you would be left alone. They would actually put you in this underground cave, like almost like a crawl space. It sounds kind of scary, actually, but it's almost like you would be put in this coffin-sized, indent in the ground, and you would have visions of Trophanos telling you whatever questions you were asking. So there was no guide at all. You were just kind of laying in this somewhat stuffy little insert in the ground and having visions.
Well, I mean, some people would say if you could just get your brain to shut the fuck up long enough that you can, most of the answers are there. And that's what meditation and everything is sort of all about, is tapping into that, shutting everything off, which these psychedelics seem to be like a speed jump or speed jump too.
Well, they don't really shut your mind off though in that kind of way.
I think maybe just the certain the certain parts, like they're shutting off. Like it's like it's
quieting.
When I eat a bunch of mushrooms, they're shutting off something in my fucking brain that allows me to look at my phone and fucking understand what's happening. Because if I pick up my phone in the middle of peeking out on mushrooms, there's no way. Like it takes all of my fucking intent and focus to like read a text message or something like that, because when I look at it, it's just like a fucking garbled mess. So, you know, and I don't find it just with that. I found like if I go to try and look at a computer screen or something like that, the same thing. And I remember one time I even noticed there was a difference between if someone had like an old tube television I could look at, but if it was like the new LED or something like that, it was just a fucking clusterfuck. And you'd have to like really like reel it in. And like, if you're really focused on it, you could bring it in for a minute, but it's hard to do. It's like something's off there. A filter has been shut off. That's putting that together or something.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious why anyone would want to be looking at a phone while tripping in the first place. But
well, yeah, exactly.
I see your point.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, man, dude, when I trip out, my phone is either off or on airplane mode or nowhere near. Like, ew, yeah. Like,
yeah, we were doing the show one time. We were doing a show on mushrooms, so we were like doing some Twitter stuff and stuff like that. And I remember trying to like read a tweet on the phone, and I was just like, you know, there's like, it just can't happen. I can read a paper, I can see that, but the phone, there's something going on with how the screen display is working. It just doesn't compute.
I didn't realize that you were doing a show. Now it makes sense.
There's a bit of a train wreck.
Well, I mean,
it's fun though.
It does make me wonder with all that, the healing potential, and I don't know. That's just I can't. My mind just goes to the sort of the conspiracy part of it, like whether it's you know, this materialistic paradigm that we live in, and the drug war, and big pharma, and it feels like there's an intersection there between, you know, true healing potential, the spirit realm, and psychedelics.
Yeah, there are, and I think the tide is kind of changing towards the side of good at this point. I mean, the FDA approved psilocybin for studies dealing with PTSD and I think also depression. And up in Canada, I don't know where they're at now, but last year they were in phase 2 testing for MDMA to also treat PTSD and depression. We're also in, you know, I don't know how many states here now, at least 13 have all legalized cannabis. I mean, it's not legal federally, but even in states where it's not legal, nobody is really doing anything about it. Like, I'm from New York, and one time when I was visiting home, you know, there's some cops stopped me because I was smoking cannabis. I was in Manhattan, and you know, just like, you know, don't be an idiot, you know, is what they wanted to say, like, don't do that. But they didn't arrest me or anything. They didn't bother me or anything like that. So whereas in like 1999, I got in trouble for it, you know. So it seems like the tide is turning, you know, because the science is just all on our side. I mean, these medicines are timeless, and they've been used, you know, by many people for thousands of years to heal all kinds of ailments, whether they be physical, mental, or spiritual.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, things have changed even since we had you on last, which was only a few years ago, probably halfway through where we are now on our podcast.
We're fucking legal now in Canada.
And yeah, we're legal, and you guys are more legal, and they are doing this testing. So yeah, it has changed quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So the tide is turning. I mean, I see what you're saying about the intersection of all those points, but I do think that with that intersection, and really with people looking for the truth, you know, not just what will satisfy them, but genuinely looking for the truth of these plant medicines and fungal allies, we're seeing that, you know, they're really not too dangerous if you're not an irresponsible individual with them. I mean, if you have a heart problem, yeah, they could be dangerous to you. If you have, you know, any kind of history of mental illness in your family, there's probably not a good idea. If you're on SSRIs, they're probably not a good idea. But if you're of sound mind and body, I mean, psychedelics are not really it's not going to harm you, really. Yeah. I mean, just don't take too much. Yeah. You know, obey the dose, set and setting. Have a good container. Don't don't. Some people, I know some people that go out to like, they'll eat mushrooms and like go to like hardcore shows, and it's like they're okay, but it's like I would never do that, So responsible use goes from individual, one individual to the next. So you got to determine what's right for you, and if you wouldn't be comfortable doing it somewhere, geez, like don't do it at that place.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I couldn't imagine. I've ended up fucked up in some weird spots, and it never goes well. Never.
So this is part of the psychedelic renaissance you're talking about. I mean, and now microdosing is a part of that, and the stuff that we talked about earlier, like Polly and Wally, like people, making. I would say
what's that
like
imitation of?
tweaking the formula a little bit for specific purposes, or what do you?
What formula are they tweaking?
Well, probably like MDMA and what did he say? It was like a mix between MDMA, ibogaine, and DMT or something like that.
What, Wally or Polly?
I can't remember now.
Okay, well, so Polly is a legal form of MDMA.
Okay.
Everything in it is actually legal.
Oh, wow.
It's called Polly for pretend Molly, at least is my understanding of it. And Wally is, closer to what you were talking about, where it's like ayahuasca and ibogaine, all at once. It's and it lasts for quite a while. And if you have, there's a certain kind of person that will actually get stuck in that state for a few days.
With a certain gene, there's a certain genetic expression, or somebody with a certain gene.
You'd be freaking the fuck out.
Yes,
after
just can't deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what keeps me away from Wally.
I've been there on acid and ecstasy.
I don't know if I have that gene, and I don't want to find out the hard way.
Yeah, I've been there on acid and ecstasy like 12 hours later, where I'm like, yep, this is it.
But I mean, how far away are we from this psychedelic limitless type thing, where you're going to take your DNA, you're going to take your genetic test, and you're going to see what you're predisposed to, and there'll be some sort of tailored Molly/Poly for you to microdose and get the maximum potential out of your creativity and your energy. I mean, are we going to head there?
Well, that's where some people are working towards. Thomas Ray over in, I think it's the University of Oklahoma. I know he teaches somewhere there, but he's really the pioneer in these studies, these tailoring these different experiences to what works best for you. He gave a talk on it last summer at the Shulgin House, which I had the pleasure and privilege of getting to attend. And really, they're just looking for funding at this point to get this entire thing going. So if anybody out there has a lot of money and wants to look up Thomas Ray, he's a hell of a really excellent dude. He's very, very smart, and he is completely revolutionizing the different ways substances can be made and the kinds of experiences people can have with them.
It's pretty safe to say that none of our listeners have a lot of money, or either that or they just don't like us very much.
Sure.
So how far away are we from something like that I mentioned, do you think? Like, if things keep going the way they're going, and the tests are opening up and people are realizing, I figure that some of the, guys in Silicon Valley and some of the tech companies, these guys are microdosing, and it's happening at a corporate level, and meditation's a part of that as well. Like that in one hand could open things up quicker than we realize as well. I mean, if they're starting to do testing. So are we like a decade or two maybe away from some of that, do you think?
Well, we'll see what happens. Like with cannabis, it kind of snowballed. There was one state, then another, and then everybody kind of goes, and then Canada goes.
Yeah.
The world, as a fellow from Scandinavia just told me yesterday, really looks to the FDA for their policies, for their substance policies. So hopefully the more liberal we get with them, the more liberal they'll get around the world, because the truth is, if you're looking to actually help people, then prison is not that's not helping anybody. And all the criminologists and the psychologists psychologists and medical professionals are all getting on board with this stuff and saying, look, if we really want to reduce crime and reduce poverty and just make the world better, then we do have to start looking into these kinds of plants as options. Here in Oregon and also in California and in Colorado, we're pushing a ballot initiative to get psilocybin mushrooms legalized here for therapeutic uses by 2020. My guess is that not too long after that, once people see the progress, more states will go. We also have coming up in Washington, which is looking to be a landmark case where a certain individual, I can't really talk about it, but is dealing with a psilocybin arrest that seems like it was very unjust and that the officer very much acted inappropriately, and we're trying to get a precedent set. And that's going to be happening either this January or this March. The prosecutor keeps pushing it back because we're going to win. So there's a lot of momentum with all this, and now is really the time to keep it going and remind people that these plants and these fungal little teachers, they are our allies, and to respect them and love them as such, and learn from them as such.
Yeah, when Darren and I were driving
Oregon
to
does seem
Oregon
to have
there.
their shit together, man. I like it there. Portland's a little fucked. Are you in Portland?
Yeah, I live in Portland.
It's a little fucked. Sorry.
You remember I was telling you that it's only a matter of time before those little, the little weed shops they have there.
Yeah.
Was that Washington? Or
Yeah,
Oregon?
it was Washington or Oregon or someplace. He said they were going to have mushroom shops. I still don't think that's coming anytime soon.
He's talking about trying to get it legal for
that's for medical use, so that means there's not going to be a shop on the side of the road with a big fucking mushroom waving around like there is for cannabis.
Well, like he said, it's only a matter of time from there.
Washington and Oregon got cannabis fucking figured out, man. Canada fucked it up.
You think?
It would be a little different. You wouldn't be able to just get mushrooms on the side of the road. It would be you go to a facility and you have somebody that is a trained guide to take you through the experience.
How long before a cafe on the side? Not a cafe. Like how long before a store on the side of the road for different strains of mushrooms?
I don't think that's coming.
That's not coming.
You know what? Right now, whether or not that's coming is not really pertinent. The focus is so much more on the these clinics and getting them legalized for these purposes, for healing purposes.
Yeah.
When and if the stands, the mushroom stands on the side of the road come, that's maybe one day that'd be great. Of course that'd be
drive through, baby.
Right now, baby steps.
That's after the claps when we're podcasting Mad Max style. Fucking.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, rolling around broadcasting on AM, eating fucking side of the road mushrooms.
Fuck yeah.
Nobody gives a fuck because you're just
you
flying
can swear.
together. You can swear like a motherfucker. It's all good.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. I don't know.
Yeah. So let's talk about.
I can't wait for the fucking, Armageddon mushroom driving around. Sounds all right sometimes, as long as I get to pick who comes.
Yeah, well, it's not for me. I'm not joining on your mushroom trips anymore. I told you that was the last one.
How are you going to guide me on my healing?
How
are you going to guide me on my healing? No. Okay, there will not be a Grimericans psilocybin 3 unless you guys can convince Graham. You know his email address, graham@grimerica.com. We'll see what we can do. Maybe we can get Thomas to join us. We'll do it down in Oregon.
Hell yeah.
High desert, baby. Ooh, I love it out in Seaside, too. We were just out in Gearhart in May. Fuck, it's too bad we could have met up.
Yeah, we're going to actually be going out to the coast and getting some mushrooms. Now's the time. After Spirit Plant Medicine Conference this weekend, we're going to head out.
'Tis the season. Careful on that road. That's a fucking sketchy road.
Where's the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference?
In British Columbia, Vancouver.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, you're coming up to Canada?
Yeah.
Don't tell him you smoke weed.
What's that?
Don't tell him you smoke weed.
Okay.
Actually, I think that's just going the other way. I was reading a story today that some couple in Saskatchewan admitted to smoking weed in the past at the border crossing, and they got denied entry into the States.
Really?
So they're saying to watch what you say at the border. Which goes back to my thing. If anyone official ever asks you if you smoke weed, you fucking say no, period. We're not
Yeah,
there
sure.
yet. We're not at that point yet. You know what I mean? We're like, I mean, I've heard of multiple cases of people, Canadians trying to get into the States, even from having a medical card in Canada and going into a legal state and being denied entry. And then not only that, you're not just denied entry, you're like fucking blacklisted. You're a pot smoker. You're out.
Well, okay. Well, thanks for the tip. I definitely will say that I do not smoke cannabis.
That's right.
Just do me a favor, release this episode after this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we will.
I'm going to release it this weekend, and I'm going to tag the border crossing that you'll be using in it. I wonder if they have a Twitter account.
There's another one of our guests.
We'll release it in like 3 weeks when you're safely back.
Yeah. Yeah, one of our other guests will be James Jessel, probably. He's, I think he's he's lived in Calgary for a while, and he's doing some similar stuff to you. Pretty good.
It's just a matter of time until we get shut down at the border. Knock on wood.
So let's get into the sort of Halloweeny stuff, the witches and the magic. I mean, how about your book? How did you come about writing the microdosing magic book, and what does that have to do with microdosing?
So when I first wrote The Witch's Ointment, it was touring around America and in the UK as well. During the Q&A sessions, the questions would repeatedly, like just all the time, go from questions about history and what I was actually talking about and go towards my personal just beliefs and practices and what I do with psychedelic magic, and more so about what kind of microdosing practices I have. So it got to a point where enough people asked me this that I was like, all right, I should just write a little book about this, because it won't take very long, because this is just stuff that I do. You know, there's really no research that has to go into it. I just have to write what my practices are. And I just put it out there for people to check it out, to see, just what makes microdosing magic different from just microdosing. Because microdosing is great. Microdosing is fantastic for you, but it's I liken it to a healthy diet and exercise. Microdosing is like having a healthy diet. Having a healthy diet is very good for you. Whether you exercise or not, a healthy diet is good. Magic is like exercise. You exercise, even if you don't have a healthy diet, if you're exercising, that's good for you. So both those things, healthy diet and exercise, are good for you independent of the other. But what happens when you put the two together?
Allegedly.
The same thing happens when you put microdosing and magic together. It's you get more out of the practice.
What are the most noticeable non-magic effects from microdosing that stand out?
Definitely more energy, better mood, a lot of mood enhancement, and creativity, especially like if you work in some kind of creative problem solving vocation, microdosing is showing to be really effective. You had mentioned before the people microdosing in Silicon Valley. There are other people also, there are screenwriters microdosing in LA, and in New York. And so they're most likely have we have people microdosing in Washington, D.C. Now, nobody can talk about it, of course, but there probably are some people there that are doing it.
Think anyone in Washington?
Yeah, he just said
DC, DC.
That's what he said.
DC, you meant DC. I wasn't sure if you were in Washington State or DC.
Oh yeah, no, Washington D.C. Yeah, to Washington D.C.
Probably like the AIDS and stuff. They're stuck working fucking 20 hours a day in the grinder, just fucking like, yeah, man, give me some more of that psilocybin powder. What's I've heard like 10 different ways to do it, like 1/10 of a gram once a day, or 1/4 of a gram for 4 days, and then take 3 days off. And they all seem to have some sort of rest period in there. Have you come across sort of the ultimate technique or schedule?
So, okay, yeah. Excuse me. So you have different experts have different suggestions on holding a microdose schedule, and you referenced a few of them. Notably, there's Paul Stamets, who says Monday through Friday, taking Saturday, Sunday off. for me, and what I show in my book, Microdosing Magic, is I like to set my microdosing cycles to magical intentions by making what I call dose symbol cycle graphs, which is just kind of like graphing out a certain symbol. And on each one of those days on the graph paper, that's when I'll take my dose. And I'll use things like sacred geometry or Germanic runes. Because like one of the things with Germanic runes is each letter in medieval German has a corresponding idea to it. So we would look at, let's say, an R letter X. In medieval German, there's also the letter X, but it also means generosity. It's the symbol for generosity. So if you're trying to run a microdose schedule, thinking of ways to just be better, towards your friends and neighbors and just a more giving person, you might make your schedule, base it off of the rune for generosity. You see what I'm saying? So that's how I go about it. And again, that would be a major difference between just microdosing and microdosing magic, really focusing your intention on what you want to get done with that microdosing schedule. Whenever I microdose with intention. I've never just microdosed for the sake of it. It's just, there's an intent, there's something I'm trying to get done. There's a task I'm trying to complete.
Mm-hmm. What about lunar cycles or seasonal changes, that kind of thing?
What's that?
What about lunar cycles or matching it up with astrology, that kind of thing? External energies and...
So that's a great question. My partner would be a much better person to answer it because she actually knows about astrology. My witchy traditions are from a different place, and I don't really deal with astrology at all. There's a little that play in my book with one particular spell, but I wouldn't consider myself like an expert, or an astrologer in any way. It was just a certain way, a hexagram. I was talking about dose symbol cycle graphs. This is a certain way a hexagram cycle just ends up working out, tells a story of how the sun wed the moon to give birth to creativity.
Okay.
So speaking of the sun wedding the moon on the eclipse to give birth to creativity, I forget. The intention
short-term memory.
There's that short-term memory thing again. Long-term memory, off the charts. Short-term memory,
microdosing
little
also
shaky.
helps with short-term memory loss. So
Really?
that's another
Perfect. It can combat the other microdosing. Intention. We're talking about intention, using magic while microdosing. Is that intention strictly magical? Are you doing it just to pull things from the universe, or are you doing it all oh man, I got this deadline, I got to get 50 pages written by the end of the month, so I'm going to do a microdosing schedule to help me productively? Or is it more of a, I need the universe to help me out here because this thing's coming up and I need to have this happen by then? So
well, what I do within my magical system is I use my microdosing to align my intellect, my will, and my emotion, which are the three immaterial forces, the three spiritual forces that make up the four gifts that we all have. The fourth gift being action. Action, the most important, is your ability to take your intellect, emotion, and will and fashion it into something, otherwise known as magic. So I don't really do deadlines very well. So I wouldn't say that I'm doing it for the sake of a deadline ever, but I do microdose, to just align my intellect, emotional will, so that when I take action, the best version of myself can be produced at that time.
Interesting.
That's really
So it
what
almost
microdosing magic is about.
holds your ego back a little bit.
Oh yeah, I have a whole chapter in the book. Chapter 5 is called "Microdosing Spells to Unasshole Yourself," and it's all just about these different ways of what I call tempering your ego, not killing your ego, because you don't want to kill your ego. That's then you're a vegetable, but. We should be tempering our egos so that, we can really see our intellect, emotion, and will for what they really are without the just the blockages that can come with ego. So, I would agree with that totally, man.
What are some of the ways you do that?
So one of the ways I would say is so let's say I'm running what I call a deesolification cycle. Sorry, it's kind of hard to say sometimes, but a deesolification cycle on the certain days. So the microdose schedule that I'll use will be an upside down A, because an upside down A is the opposite of an asshole. Hold on a second. Sorry, my kitty just wants to stretch. And
what's his name?
Each of those, what's that?
What's his name?
We don't have a name for her yet, this little girl.
Can we name her now?
If it's a good one.
All right, I like Harriet.
I was thinking Polly or something. Polly.
Unity.
Anyway.
Unity, there you go.
So, sorry. Where were we before the?
You were going into the sigil part of your unassholing.
Oh yes, thank you. So one of the things that I do on those days of deassholification is you don't use the word "I" for an entire day. So you don't say "I want this" or "I used to think" or "I want that." You'll notice two things very quickly if you do this. One, you're going to have to come up with some very creative ways to say sentences, and two, when your friends come to you seeking advice, most of the time you're just using it as using it as an excuse to talk about yourself.
So I bet you inserted "we" a lot in there and "let's," that kind of thing.
Do you do third person?
Just working.
Thomas doesn't. Thomas thinks you're crazy.
No, and you also it really you stop and think about your sentences fully before you say them. That's another.
That would really help me out.
Yeah.
That would help everybody out.
I'm on like a 3-week in a row streak of getting myself in trouble with things I say on the podcast.
Only 3 weeks? Wow.
Yeah, that's not bad. 312 episodes. I'm going to see if I can get a little streak going.
Yeah, I get in trouble for things I say almost every day. So you're lucky. You're very lucky.
So that's a really good point. So you incorporate sigils a little bit in there. Anything else like any other techniques from the traditional magic realm, like maybe even affirmations or some basic kind of law of attraction type stuff at all?
Not really law of attraction stuff, but I do think it's important to use symbols that work for you and resonate with you. So, like, for example, my pantheon of energies, if we can call it that for lack of a better term, is named after, different Greco-Roman goddesses and gods, because I'm Greek and Italian, and that they're just the ones that speak the most to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm other things too, but I'm predominantly Greek and Italian. And to use symbols that work for you. And also just on that, like to have that kind of naturalistic occultism kind of thing going on, where you do the things that work for you. If something isn't working for you, then definitely ditch it. And if a friend of yours is saying like, oh, but it works great for me, that's great. That's great that it works for your friend. It might not be working for you. Go with the symbols that work for you. And that's a lot of what microdosing magic is all about. It's finding, you are a slice of the cosmos. You are a microdose of the universe. So get in touch with that.
Yeah. So
that would be...
Sorry to get personal and all that, and sort of get deeper into that. But do you have any daily rituals or any rituals that transcend your schedule, that your microdose schedule that you do every day anyways, or do you have an altar? Do you get into do you have stuff like that going on as well?
Sure. Well, that behind me, that's my altar, or at least part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I have an altar, and I use it wisely.
I kind of noticed that behind you there.
What's that?
I kind of noticed your those stuff behind you there. It's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. And like I have certain things that I do. I actually just did today that deal with. It's just a general adjuration to Gaia and reminder of to have general gratitude in life, even when things don't go your way. Actually, especially when things don't go your way, which can be very tough. Life can be very crushing. So, having these magical techniques, at least for me, has served a very useful, purpose, and so much more than that. I mean, my spiritual beliefs are based around it as well, and they also have carried me through some pretty tough times, and and I know that might not jive with some people, but that's cool. You got to do what works for you.
Yeah, totally. Have you picked up a lot of it in your research of the historical uses of the stuff?
Historical uses of psychedelics?
Yeah. Like how much of that? How much of that are you incorporate, or not how much of it? But obviously, you're using some of that in your daily or in your your personal practice, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah. So before I got really deep into using psychedelics with spirit, like in spirituality, around when I was about 18, I just had a general kind of spiritual nature about me, and after psychedelics, I kind of honed my practice a little bit more and got into the creative side of spirituality, the creative side of divinity, with writing songs and poems and things like that. I'd been writing songs and poems before that, since I'm like 13 years old, but they definitely took on a different style from my earlier work. And then when I started studying the history of it all around 2005, that's when I really honed it in and focused in on what a lot of these kind of fertility goddess worshipers of medieval times were doing, and Gaia worshipers of ancient Greece, and just mixing some of their ideas into some of my ideas, and also some Dionysian ideas. I think that there's something to be said about revelry enhanced with psychedelics. I am quite fond of building a nice big bonfire in the woods or on a beach and inviting some friends and, taking some mushrooms and dancing around and getting naked like that, playing guitars and drums and what have you. That kind of practice, that kind of, spiritedness is very uplifting. Yeah. So I don't necessarily always separate the sacred from the profane with that word recreational. Now, again, recreationally, you should be careful, of course, and you definitely shouldn't drive after you take a psychedelic. And again, if you're the kind of person that wouldn't do good at a bonfire like that, you shouldn't show up to that. Whereas the kind of friends I have, they would be all too happy. They like showing up to that kind of stuff. So it's, there's something to be said, I think, about, spirited celebrations and, that community revelry is, I think, really good for people.
Yeah. And then, so the difference between that book that you talked about that's a little more personal and the psychic mystery traditions, or the psychedelic mystery traditions, do you want to talk a little bit about the difference in that, and did that one lead to the other one a little bit? I mean, you mentioned the witch's ointment one leading to your psychedelic spell book, but how did the other one play into that?
Oh, no. So the witch's ointment led to, not to microdosing magic, a psychedelic spell book. It's what led to psychedelic mystery traditions. Okay. Yeah. It essentially just psychedelic mystery traditions grew out of the witch's ointment. It was just parts that had been cut that couldn't be put into the larger book. Or when you're writing a book, you have to pick and choose and edit all this stuff out. And I realized it's like, with a little bit more work, I have, there's a book here. So I just finished writing that book, that would have been the witch's ointment. It's kind of a prequel to the witch's ointment. It explains almost everything that happened up to, the witch's ointment, and showing like the kind of like back catalog of how priestesses and seers and prophetesses and priests and what have you all used these kinds of plants in the ancient world, in the ancient Mediterranean world. So I mostly focus on the West, like Egypt and Greece and Rome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what caught me when I was listening to you talk about it, is how much there was that I didn't realize was going on before then, like before the medieval times,
Yeah. I didn't either, really, until I started looking back at the doing research for the witch's ointment. I came across ancient laws that would mention things like mandrake specifically by name, and banning it. It's like, oh, wow. Okay. So they knew about this and they knew what it could do to the point where there was a law against it. You also have another guy named Zosimos the Alchemist who was complaining that certain people were using cannabis in their magical rites. So, as a historian, I have to say, well, if there's somebody complaining about somebody doing something, it probably means it's because that person was, there were people doing that thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you have a couple of these little glimpses in the ancient world that just show not, I don't want to make it sound like all of the ancient world and all of magic and spirituality in the ancient and medieval worlds rested in psychedelia, because they certainly did not. Just to show that there are these same traditions in the West that go back thousands of years.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
I think, there's a whole sect that thinks all of Christianity is based on psychedelic cults.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you've done
if you
quite
look
a
at
bit.
Like the Mark Allegro stuff.
You've
right?
done quite a bit of work on that too, right? The
I
mushroom
have
symbolism and kind of debunking that whole thing. That was fascinating to hear that too. I kind of agree with you on all that.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, the whole holy mushroom, sacred mushroom, mushroom and Christian art thing is just really based on a very big misunderstanding about how medieval history operates and how biblical history operates and how the New Testament evolved over time. And the people who push the theory have very much largely ignored the primary sources and the secondary source scholarship that digs into all this stuff. And one of the things that I found rather fascinating as I wrote more for Psychedelic Mystery Traditions, because I have 3 chapters on how Christians used psychedelics in that book, none of which, of any of those ways, I should say, have anything to do with painting mushrooms in art. And Christians, you will find, were rather open about these experiences. They didn't mind writing about them or discussing them. So it doesn't make sense that they would discuss opium and cannabis and mandrake and henbane and never say anything about mushrooms or painting them in art.
Yeah.
The people that make that claim are not, again, they're smart people. They're very smart people. A very good friend of mine, Jerry Brown, who I think wrote the best book on the topic, The Psychedelic Gospels. I mean, I disagree with him, but he's using anthropological methods to answer a historical question, and you can't do that. It would be like trying to use a hammer and nails to paint a picture. There's nothing wrong with a hammer and nails, and there's nothing wrong with painting a picture. It's just that you need paints and a brush to paint a picture. You use a hammer and nails to make tables and chairs. And if you try to use one to make the other, I mean, and the other, it goes the other way. You can't use paintbrushes and paints to make a table or a chair. It just doesn't work. So while Jerry's argument is anthropologically sound, it isn't historically valid. He can point to many different cultures. Indeed, we all can point to many different cultures that had knowledge of and used these psychedelics for entheogenic purposes. No doubt about that. But that doesn't mean that you could just throw that onto every single kind of culture. Christians were using psychedelics. They just weren't painting them in art. The iconography it does not show mushrooms. They show trees. Trees, just like mushrooms, can have bulbous tops, and they're on trunks, which are long like the stems of a mushroom. These people they don't know what they're looking at because they have not studied medieval Christian art or medieval Christianity or New Testament history or any form of discipline that one would need to actually take this question seriously.
Can you explain a little bit? I'm a little confused over how he can't... how it can be anthropologically sound but not historically sound. Like, what do you mean by that? Like,
sure,
how can one be one without the other?
Sure, that's a great question. So with anthropology, you're going and you can ask people that are still alive what it is that they think about something. So as just one example, in Jerry's book, he uses as a source a tour guide that was at one of the sites where he photographed to make his case that supposedly he would say shows a mushroom, I would say shows a tree, and that doesn't count because that guy's a tour guide. That guy is not an expert in medieval art or medieval art history, and of course he's going to say that that's a mushroom because this is the small little area of Meringue, France, where they don't get many tourists. This is the only thing they have. So of course he's going to go along with it and say it's a mushroom.
Right.
So anthropologically, also you could look. Jerry's looking to other areas of the world. So his book, like the whole first part of his book, he's talking about Mesoamerican shamans. He's talking about Siberian shamans. He's talking about tests that took place in the United States during the 1960s. He's going all over the world, except the only place he isn't going to make his case is medieval Europe. But if you're looking at medieval European art, you have to see it in its cultural context. He's seeing it in all these other cultural contexts, and that you can do that anthropologically, sure, but you don't get to say that because all these other cultures, revered psychedelics that these people in this part of France also did. That's anthropology. A historian goes back and looks at the evidence and sees, well, is there anything that would demonstrate that these people knew about this or were secretly painting mushrooms in Christian art? And when you really look into it, you find that there's nothing there. It's just a lot of misunderstandings made by those who promote the theory.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. Yeah, thanks.
How dare you? No, that was good. I like it. I haven't looked into the really mark to that yet. I've almost bought that book like 4 times, but it's fucking expensive, so I never have. And now, maybe I don't need to.
What, The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross. It's funny. It's one of my favorite books ever. It's everything I ever wanted to read in a book. I read it 5 times, almost 6 times, but definitely 5 solid times. I loved it. It's a great book, but reading it, you'll see what I'm talking. I mean, it's word salad. I mean, I enjoyed it in my youth, but as somebody that's now trained in history, it's very far-fetched. It's a lot of fun and it's intriguing, but it's not sound history. Like there's no Allegro applied no sound historical methodology whatsoever in writing the book. So, but it's a great book. It's fun.
There you have it. The more you know. So what about? So you're trained in history?
Yes.
What do you think about some of that history stuff and some of the Göbekli Tepe that's coming up and stuff like that? Do you think, what's your take on the timeline? Is someone trained in history? What's your take on the current timeline of human history?
Like advanced human history or?
Just human history.
Just human history.
Don't lead the witness.
Well, I should say that my focus in history as a trained historian is in medieval pharmacopoeia, psychedelic use in the ancient world.
Okay.
I don't. Let me just say that I don't know anything at all about Japanese history. I don't know anything about Brazilian history. I don't know anything about Russian history. I know a little bit about Russia, but not with history. It's you when you get a master's, you focus in specific areas. So I couldn't tell you the breadth. My take on human history would be it's getting better. So hang in there.
Do you guys you hang in there? I heard that from a cat like fucking 20 years ago. It's been like the defining point of my life. What do you think about do you guys ever have like parties where you guys are all like have your masters and you're super specialized in these single points of history? Like, we need to get you guys all together in one room so we have like every point at the table, and then we'll give you guys a bunch of mushrooms and we'll see what you come up with. We'll give you a weekend.
I don't know if that's ever taken place, but that'd be great. If it did take place, it probably took place in the 1950s at some point or the 1960s. But that'd be great. I mean, I'd be into it.
So what about where's the difference between that and like the MK Ultra use of psychedelics, where they're just like dosing the fuck out of people with LSD and all this lab made stuff?
Well, one is consensual, the other is not. And one, you know, when you have all the information and you know what you're getting into, and you're not, you know, in a very bleak place like a psych ward, you know, and the other is the opposite of all that. So I think there's a big difference.
I wonder. I was just reading. I've been going on.
Darren's been going down that rabbit hole lately about that MK Ultra and LSD. So
it's crazy. Those
yeah,
crazy
it's
fucking
crazy.
assholes.
Well, I mean, that probably held back the proactive part of the research for a couple decades, probably. You know, just messing around with all that shit.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible, some of it. I mean, outside of the CIA-funded labs, you know, you had people doing legit research and some illegit research, and it's a shame that the hammer kind of came down on all of them. So,
yeah.
You know, that's why today we have to have pretty, you know, strict measures when working with these things, and not really just kind of throw them out to people the way some researchers did in the 60s, like Timothy Leary. Like that really contributed to the hammer coming down on everybody.
Yeah. Not just putting mushrooms out on the side of the road on the streets. You know,
Yeah, you can't just be selling mushrooms to podcasters on the side of the road, ground. Not even in Oregon.
So we've covered lots of stuff here, Thomas. Pretty much everything I wanted to cover, I think. And that's, do you have anything you want to
cover
add?
what Thomas wants to
wanna,
cover.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Anything we're missing out for people, or?
No, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, good. Right on. Any witchy stories for Halloween?
Do you think that the border should just be open?
What's that?
No, don't.
Nothing. I'm just trolling Graham. Graham got into a political chat with the last guest, so I like teasing him.
Oh,
it's an inside joke.
Oh,
so you and
okay,
Ephraim are both in Portland, man. We'll have to meet up with you the next time we're down there.
Yeah, please do.
I seem to end up in Portland once or twice a year somehow.
Sure.
Usually on my way to the ocean. You guys are like the closest fucking open ocean is like Seaside. Before that, it's like that big fucking islands in the way.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, whenever you're down.
We'll do a little festival down there. Maybe we'll eat mushrooms on the beach. Dance. Sounds wonderful, Graham Kachapman.
That sounds great.
Absolutely.
That sounds great.
I don't know if Darren
Let's
can
do
handle
it.
getting naked on the beach on mushrooms.
No, I'll be fucking gone.
Enjoy your conference this weekend, and enjoy your time in Vancouver.
Hey, maybe
It's
a bump into
beautiful city.
some Grimericans there. We got a bunch of listeners in BC.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
have a good trip, and we'll put all the links in the show notes and stuff, and continue the awesome work.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for being cool with the time mess up. I appreciate it.
It's all good, man. We fuck that shit up on a constant basis.
Yeah.
It's okay. We were late.
Usually it's us, so it's
we
nice
would have been
that-
late. You'd have been waiting for us.
Yeah, we were late anyway, so
Awesome.
right on,
All right,
buddy.
great.
All right.
Good
Yeah.
time.
Thanks for coming
man.
out. Come back
Thanks.
anytime.
All right.
Yeah.
Now is a chat with Thomas Hatsis, eating shrooms and riding brooms. That's his email signature. I just
No.
love it. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Huh.
You don't believe me?
Yeah, I believe you.
I don't think you do.
I believe you.
No, I don't think you do. It's fine.
That was good. I haven't really thought about microdosing and magic together. It's pretty cool to go there.
We should try
We
it.
should try it. Yeah.
Or would I try and magic
I'm not trying.
forget?
I'm not doing any of that stuff. But you can go ahead. Well, you can be the guinea pig for all that.
See?
Oh, Jesus.
There you go.
There you go.
Next time, just throw him in Graham's water. We'll fucking MK Ultra this motherfucker right on the podcast.
Next thing you know, I'll be sending fucking bombs spelt wrong with the addresses and kind of crazy stuff like
Graham
that.
just fucking falls off the face of the earth after he gets
He
fucking
disappears.
MK Ultra to
no
6
more.
doses
Yeah.
acid.
Yeah.
It's just, that would be it. You're the interviewer. We can't do the show without you.
I'd almost be like you on the front lawn, thinking I'm dying.
Without my wit. My wit's useless without your interview skills. That's it. We'd be finished. Support the show before that happens. Grimerica.ca/support and the Stop Us from Dope and Graham Fund. No, just kidding. We would never do that.
Yeah, and even though
We're
this
bringing
came
an
out later
outsider.
on, it's kind of
We'll like
Happy
go down to
Halloween
Cash Corner and hire someone and
episode.
get him to eat like 10 hits of acid on the podcast. All right, guys. We're not actually going to do that. We're just saying that. It's not something we're actually going to do. We do not condone that. Any other disclaimers you want to throw in there?
Nah,
Fuck
got
it.
it all covered.
Support the show. Grimerica.ca/support. Do all the shit in the show notes. Grimerica.ca/FM is the radio station. And yeah, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Starts happening. Pow, pow, pow. We started seeing flashbulbs. Streakers coming down. Graham Dunlop is the He Said He star. Graham Dunlop is the He Said He star. Blubbity, blubbity, blah.
Spam Graham, Graham.
Can we tell Alex?
Oh, you fucking fuck. Honestly.
Can we tell Alex that we're a little late? Gonna be a little late before we start? Or just tell him as we go?
I'll text him.
Okay.
Are you done?